Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Monday, August the 11th, 2025. It's quite early this morning. The guys, you can hear there, the power tools are already going. Not sure whether that's actually legal, but anyway, they've started anyway. It's about 8 o'clock. I think it's probably about right anyway. It's not near my house anyway, so I don't care. There's a big hedge there as well, so I'm sure they'll be fine with the noise. Now, on this day in boxing history, what have we got? Only a couple of things. In 1954, Archie Moore stopped Harold Johnson in round 14 of a 15-round title fight to retain his world light heavyweight championship before a crowd of 8,500 at New York's Madison Square Garden. This was actually the fifth meeting between the two fighters, and the 37-year-old Moore successfully defended his world title for the third time. So there you go. And another one in 1990, I think it was. Pernell Whitaker knocked out Juan Nazario in the first round to retain his world lightweight championship. And what a fighter Pernell Whitaker was. I was just going to say maybe not the most, well, he's recognised of course, but maybe, I was going to say underrated. He's not underrated. He's in most people's all-time great list of the lightweights. But where does he stand in the rankings of world pound for pound over the journey, if that makes sense, in history? I think he's definitely in the top sort of 15 anyway. So another, actually, I didn't mention it yesterday, but it was the birthday of Riddick Bowe. Was it today or yesterday, whatever it was? And he's turned 58, I think it was, Riddick Bowe. And he's probably an example of what could have been with some of these fighters that just didn't maybe have the discipline of others. And where are you, Daniel? And if you've seen him fight over the journey, he was a I won't say a great fighter, but he was a very, very good fighter. Those wars with Evander Holyfield, 3 fights, he beat him twice. The first fight was just probably obviously his crowning achievement, and I think he weighed the lightest he'd ever weighed in that fight as well. For him, it was 230, 235, something like that. And just put on the performance of a lifetime. I remember too, he was Olympic silver medalist. He was beaten by Lennox Lewis in the '88 Olympics. And when he beat Holyfield that first time, I remember thinking this guy could go on and be like Larry Holmes was, just really dominate the division. Unlike Larry, though, he did have some really good dance partners in Lewis and Mike Tyson and Holyfield, of course. And when you think about it, those four, could we have had the Ali, Fraser, Foreman, Norton sort of rivalry that a lot of those did? And unfortunately, some of those fights didn't happen, or they did happen, they happened way too late. So, but Riddick Bowe, it's a bit of a shame about him these days. Actually, he has his good and bad days by the looks of things. He, as far as his I suppose mental capacities these days, for me, he didn't take that many punches. I mean, he was in some wars, but no different to a hell of a lot of fighters out there. I actually thought he was always, his defence was always pretty good. And as I said, he was in some wars, but nothing to the point where he was really knocked out bad or took a lot of heavy shots. I don't know. I mean, but you hear him talk these days and he's got some issues. As I said, he has his good days and bad days. I've seen interviews, some recent interviews with him where he seems okay, and then others where he doesn't. But you just got to wonder where he might have been at or what he might have achieved if he had remained disciplined. I mean, his weight always ballooned in between fights, very undisciplined in between fights and in camps and everything else. So, yeah, you just got to wonder what could have been for Riddick, Big Daddy Bowe. And you also got to wonder about his legacy when he won that world title against Evander Holyfield, and instead of facing Lennox Lewis next as his WBC mandatory challenger, just excuse the dogs in the background there, he chose to throw that WBC belt in the bin and forego it and just forget about it. So that has to have tainted his legacy. Now, I know he probably made the stand about something to do with the WBC and the way they go about things, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to be a legitimate world champion, then you've got to fight the likes of Lennox Lewis, don't you? And that was one fight that never happened, and looks like we're going to get it again with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. This was the fight before the Joshua Fury one. It should have happened and just didn't. So yeah, you have to wonder where Riddick Bowe's legacy is. Now, I've actually seen him a couple of times at the Box Fan Expo in Las Vegas, and people still love him. They still gravitate to him for all the photos and autographs and all that sort of stuff. And speaking of the Box Fan Expo, actually on a different subject, when we're over there for Crawford and Canelo, we'll be on again. So I'll be obviously doing a daily vlogs, and I'll be sure to get a lot of the video, or a lot of the fighters on video. But that was Riddick Bowe on this day. Now, another fighter that actually I saw an interview with over the weekend from the past, who wasn't as accomplished as Riddick Bowe, but he was still a great, well, no, he wasn't a great fighter, great to watch back in the day, was Donovan Razor Ruddock. Now, he's been interviewed. Now, I didn't hear him talk, I just read it, but he is a strange cat. He is looking to make a comeback at 61 years of age. Now you remember his fights with Tyson. He beat, who did he fight? Dokes, and he's fought Tommy Morrison and Lennox Lewis and these types of guys. And I read an interview saying he was, in his opinion, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, and never lost a fight. He was robbed in all of them, even when he got knocked out in 2 rounds by Lennox Lewis. And when he was stopped in the 1st or the 7th round against Mike Tyson, which was a little bit controversial, but they did it three months later, and Iron Mike won a clear-cut decision this time. But he said that he wants to make a comeback at 61 years of age. Now, I was actually at his last fight, strangely enough. It was in 2015. And he fought a guy, I can't remember his name, it was in Canada. Shannon O'Connell fought Sandy Seguros on the undercard of Adonis Stevenson against Tommy Carpenter, I think his name was. And Errol Spence was also on the undercard as well. It was a great night of fights, it really was. And Razor Ruddock, I remember meeting him. I was over the moon meeting Razor Ruddock, and I remember Lennox Lewis and Antonio Tarver were there as well in Toronto. And didn't really give a lot. He was very guarded, was Razor Ruddock, but still had all his faculties. That's probably the difference between him and Riddick Bowe. Still very, very sharp. But yeah, he's got this delusion in his mind that, yeah, he never lost a fight and he was robbed in all of them, and he can still come back and do some damage at 61 years of age. Definitely out there, Donovan Razor Ruddock. But apparently he's got a son or a grandson or something that he reckons is going to be the next big thing. So we will see. But you just got to wonder sometimes these former fighters. And this is what I've always been on about, a boxers union or something like that to protect these fighters, because yeah, they just. Yeah, they have some issues after they finish. They have some issues. And Riddick Bowe's probably one. Actually, just speaking of Riddick Bowe as well, I didn't actually say when I was talking about him before, he did his top 5 heavyweights of all time. Now, I don't know whether he did it as a joke or whatever it was, but he was asked his top 5 heavyweights of all time, and he had Muhammad Ali at number 1, which is probably no surprise. He had Evander Holyfield at number 2. He had himself at number 3. He had Mike Tyson at number 4. And James Buster Douglas at number 5. That was his top 5 of all time. So obviously he's doing it with a bit of jest or something. Or I would hope so. Or maybe he's got more issues than we thought. But yeah, it's a little bit off topic and not really relevant to what's happening in boxing at the moment. But you know, for someone that sort of grew up in the the 80s and 90s. To see those two fighters, with their own issues, it's not good. But let's hope they're still doing well anyway. Outside of that, all right. Now come here, man. The Japanese Boxing Commission have been in the news in the last week or so, haven't they? A couple of weeks, and it looks like it could get even worse. They've had 2 fighters that have died from that August second card, and there is word that maybe there could be a third, which is just so hard to get your head around. Now the boxer's name is Yamato Hata. I think that's how you pronounce it. I hope I've done that right. Yeah, it's Yamato. Is it Hata or Hata? He's in a coma still, but apparently the word is that he's not in a great state. So not great for the Japanese boxing at the moment. Now, it was really interesting actually to get some feedback yesterday on the YouTube video when I discussed this, and I think it was Justin Footed out there. So thanks, Justin, who has said he'd done some training or had trained some boxers in Japan, and his theory of the situation could be like, I was probably just giving the Japan Boxing Commission just a bit of an out as just one of those things that happened. But the more I sort of looked into it, there has been more and more cases of this happening, not to this extent, of course, to potentially have 3 deaths on the same card, plus some other injuries as well. But he said that in his experiences over there, weight cutting is really prominent, and it's probably something I hadn't really thought about, and it makes a hell of a lot of sense, because from what I've seen as far as the cards go, or the fights on the cards over there goes, it's not like the fight cards are sort of any different to what we see anywhere around the world. But when you think about it, if the fighters are really cutting weight badly, that can really affect your ability to absorb punches, and not just absorb the punches, but also just the stress on your body that a 10 or 12 round fight can put on it. And when you haven't got enough fluid on the brain, and your body just doesn't function right, and you're putting it under this really bad duress, and as well as taking punches and everything else, it's not conducive to, I suppose, getting out in one piece. And so maybe instead of they have what they have done, and I think it's just a bit of a band-aid situation. They've said they're going to reduce OPBF fights from 12 rounds to 10. I really don't think that's going to solve the problem if that is the case, with the weight cutting and everything else. They probably need to really look at what fighters are doing in training camps and leading into fights and everything else, and maybe probably come down a little bit harder on fighters that are doing the weight hard. Or because I wouldn't say go to the lengths that England go to and actually ban saunas. I just can't believe that. But maybe do some other things, like really monitor what trainers are doing, what fighters are doing. I know it's easier said than done, but that seems to be, if that is the case and weight cutting is the main problem, it might just come down to maybe some education for the fighters and the trainers over there, and just say, hey, look, you don't need to be at these really low weights. And look, I'm not amongst it, but for what Justin said there, it's just prominent that it's just a common thing over there. It's a given that everyone does weight really hard and they really squeeze everything out of the body that they can. So if that's the case, it does make sense that Japan have more of this happening or occurring than any country in the world. So let's hope they get it right. It's not a good look on the sport, and because apparently in this case as well, like the fighters involved, while they were hard fights, they weren't to the extent of what we've seen in some other fights around the world where this has sort of occurred, where they've taken a lot of punishment and been knocked out or whatever it might have been. This is sometimes just the after effects of the fight itself, where the winners have actually collapsed as well. So as I said, let's hope they can rectify this and tweak a few things in the rules and regulations and everything. And as I said, it might just come down to more awareness to say, please don't put your fighter at risk. If they are continuing to struggle to make weight, just put them up in weight, put them up a division at those lower weights, which is where most of the Japanese fighters are. Geez, you're talking about what, 4 pounds, so not even 2 kilograms. So it's not like it's a massive jump as far as size. Not like you're jumping from 154 to 160 or 160 to 168 or 168 to 175. I mean, you're talking 7-8 pounds. This is only less than 2 kilos, so I just don't see why you'd be killing yourself almost literally for less than a couple of kilos. But as I said, let's hope they they can get it right. What else is happening? Now in Vegas for Crawford and Canelo. Actually, I missed one of the main things I was going to talk about there too. Canelo Crawford fight week. There's going to be a fight night, and there's talk there might even be a couple of fight nights, but I know on September 11th, so 2 days before the fight, which is the Thursday night, there's going to be a fight card, and it looks like Michael Hunter will fight Big Baby Miller, I think it was, not Anderson, Miller. Anderson pulled out. So, and there's talk they're going to load the card up and potentially have a second card that week. So how good would that be to really make it like the WWE with the WrestleMania and all that sort of stuff? This is not the first time this has happened, by the way. I've been to, over these numerous Golden Boy shows, and I think not so much Top Rank shows, but definitely Golden Boy shows where they have had a fight night, and it used to just be the norm. They'd have a fight night on the Thursday night before the Saturday night fights. Normally it used to be at the Hard Rock in the Joint, it was called. Really good fight nights in there as well. And you'd always see all the boxers teams and the hangers-on and boxing legends that were in Vegas for fight week. They'd all be there. I've got actually, it was the first time I ever met Vinny Pazienza there, was actually at the Joint for one of the fight nights there. So I'll just come past here. Oh, I forgot about this. There's a bloody half-eaten kangaroo here. Hang on, come this way, buddy. We're going to cross the road. Yep, we're going to get right away from this kangaroo. Yep, good boy. Yep, I forgot about that. Not good. You would have thought the council would have picked it up by now. It's only been about 2 weeks. But yeah, it used to go there and they have all the teams and the fighters and all the fans. It was a really, really good night. And I think they did it at the Cosmopolitan a couple of times as well. But the main ones I used to go to were at Hard Rock. And I think I've said before, they actually had a fight night out the front of T-Mobile Arena in the plaza that was just free to walk up and watch. So, but yeah, by all accounts, they're looking to make it a big week, and I think it's great to really make it a festival type of atmosphere. And because most of the time, obviously being in Vegas, most people come from all over the world, all over the country, and as well, and they're looking for boxing events to do. And most of the time, the average fans are sort of locked out of most things except the weigh-in. So it actually has some fight nights and some other things that are sort of planned. I think it's fantastic to make, for these big fights, to make it a week-long sort of celebration. I think it's awesome. So so that is fight week, and I'm not quite sure who else will be added to the card, but as I said, it looks like Michael Hunter. Big risk for him, actually, because I think he's ranked, was he number 1 with one of the organisations? So to fight Big Baby Miller, it's a bit risky, but good for us fight fans as well. I think they're trying to match him up with Deontay Wilder, who wasn't really interested in it, and Michael Hunter will be stepping in. So yeah, great news there for all of us heading over there for fight week. Danny Garcia was looking like he's going to make a comeback in was it December? I think it was. What did I read there? I wrote it down. October at Barclays Center in New York. So I'm not quite sure we want to see Danny Garcia back. I was at his last fight against Erislandy Lara. Did not look good. That was at 160 though, so maybe 154 might be more like it. But from what I saw last time, he didn't have much left. So let's just hope if they do match him up with someone that it's not someone like a Erislandy Lara, and just someone that he can get maybe a couple of paydays before he exits the sport. And another fighter from that area, Edgar Berlanga. He'll be back in December, apparently. So yeah, I'll be counting the days to that, not Edgar Berlanga. Interesting to see who he gets to promote him, though, because he's had fallouts with Top Rank, Matchroom, and Golden Boy. So, and by accounts, his performance against Hamza Shiraz didn't go down well with Turki Al Sheikh either. So, who's going to promote him? Sounds like he's pretty difficult to deal with. He's going to want big money. Can he measure up and get your return on your investment? It's just sometimes you just don't burn the bridges, or you don't slam the door shut. You might sort of close the door, but you leave it ajar just a little bit to be able to go back and work with promoters. Canelo's done it, or not really with Golden Boy, but he's done it with other promoters, where he's shifted around a few different promoters and been able to go back because he has that relationship. But Edgar Berlanga, I have a feeling is not really going to have a lot of people or the welcoming committee out for Golden Boy, Top Rank and Matchroom anyway. So yeah, it's maybe a lesson to Edgar and other fighters like him. Just stay in your lane when it comes to this sort of stuff, and don't burn those bridges. Anyway, now the one thing I didn't talk about at the start, which was my lead story really, was that it looks like they are now gearing Nikita Tszyu towards Brock Jarvis. There was a post on the No Limit website, the Facebook page, that if both fighters get through, what am I smelling there? I can smell something dead. If both fighters get through this fight, then it might be Nikita and Brock next. And that makes a lot of sense because, as I said in the lead up, or some of the interviews done so far, I just get the feeling that Nikita and especially Michael Zerafa aren't that motivated or excited about the prospect of fighting each other. And I think if they do fight each other, it will be purely manufactured for No Limits probably benefit to get a big card happening. And the guys will get a good payday out of it as well. But I just don't see, like, if Tim and Michael fought, you could obviously see it's been progressively building up, and they've been on sort of a collision course for however long. But these two, Nikita and Michael, it's like, well, we can't get Tim in with Michael, so what are we going to do? Well, I suppose Nikita will just do it, and we'll try and build the fight up to something that it's not. They've been trying their absolute best to sort of maybe get the rivalry going between the two, but there's just no chemistry between them, just in my opinion. Between Nikita and Michael, there's no chemistry. There is between Tim and Michael, obviously, but I just don't see. Just almost like, I know it sounds silly, but it almost sounds like there's two magnets that they're trying to push together that are just refusing to go together. I think Tim and Michael just go together perfectly with everything. I think it'd be the next Green Mundine, but for Nikita and Michael, as I said, I just think it's forced, and I think it's going to be maybe a hard sell, and maybe No Limit realise that neither fighter are too stressed about it. Maybe there's a bit of influence coming from the Tszyu side where they're saying, hey, look, we just don't want a part of this guy. And Brock Jarvis would seem a very winnable alternative. Depends on how he looks on next Wednesday's at the 20th against Steve Bell, and it sounds by all accounts Steve Bell will be turning up to give his all. I actually spoke to Mike Altamura the other day, who manages Steve Bell, and I think that's his name. I hope that's his name. And they're pretty confident they're going to give Brock Jarvis a fight. So, and Mike Altamura, you don't, whatever he says, you sort of believe. Even though he's the manager, normally his fighters turn up and give their all and cause the odd upset. So yeah, I think if Brock can get past that, I think it's a very, very marketable fight. I do. And now it's not a world-class fight, but I'm sure No Limit will do their best to persuade us otherwise. But I think that's a really well-matched, marketable fight. And as I said about chemistry, I think Nikita and Brock have chemistry. I really do. I think the two of them together would be a really entertaining build-up. I think the fight would be really good. I don't know, it depends on what Brock looks like next week. But on his day, the kid, he's not really a kid anymore, is he? He can fight. He's obviously nowhere near world standard. That was shown against Keith Thurman. But against Nikita, who has just been a little bit wobbly in a few of his fights, Brock likes to throw bombs, and he's pretty fit and hard. And Jeff would have him, just as Jeff Fennick would have him ready to go. Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be a really marketable fight. And I know it probably goes against the narrative, but I'd almost prefer that fight over the Zerafa fight. I think Michael should probably just go off and seek bigger overseas fights, because the sound thing is his heart's not in this fight. And really, if he beat Nikita, I mean, what is he, 33, 34, something like that? If he did actually fight and beat Nikita, I was going to say it wouldn't do much for his ranking, even though Nikita is ranked at 154. I just think Michael, he's at the stage of his career where he's ranked in by, two or three of the organisations. He needs to focus on the big dogs of that division and try and get maybe a Janabek or an Adames. Obviously, the Lara fight will be off the table, but that's what he should be aiming for. And I'm not quite sure fighting Nikita is really going to satisfy or get him to where he wants and needs to get to. I just don't think the Nikita fight does that for him. And I just get the feeling with Michael, he's sort of, by his body language and what he's talking about, it's like, I just want Tim. It's almost like he's saying, I want Tim. look, they want me to fight Nikita, but I'm not interested. I will do it if I have to. There's nothing else, but I really don't want to do it. That's the impression I get from Michael. But I suppose all will be revealed after August 20th, because I think they're going to fight in December. They want Nikita to have a quick turnaround and get one of those fights happening. But I would be, if I had to put my money on what fight would happen, I'm going to go with Nikita and Brock Jarvis. And as I said, I welcome that fight. I think it would be very, very entertaining and a good build-up and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, give me your thoughts as usual. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today on this beautiful Monday morning. Hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you tomorrow.